準備万端ですね。行くよ。燃やし尽くす。
As far as game pitches go, an endless Persona 5 spin-off sounds like a pretty solid idea. What's not to love about turn-based RPG battles, complex villains, and a plethora of sumptuous social links? Enter Atlus's latest genre-flipping addition to the series, Persona 5 The Phantom X, a gacha-filled adventure that boasts all the hallmarks of its iconic source material, from beautifully animated cutscenes to goosebump-inducing needle drops. What's the catch? Oh, just a boatload of confusing currencies to juggle and a grind-heavy gameplay loop once you escape its inviting early game. It's a shame, because if you look past the persistently lurking gacha baggage, it's a peachy pastiche. But after 35 hours, its charms have more than worn thin as a result of this framework, leaving behind a flattering but deeply compromised imitation of Persona 5. The Phantom X might be a Persona 5 spin-off, but that doesn't mean you'll be playing as Joker and the crew. Instead, you'll embody a new character called Nagisa Kamishiro in an alternate timeline version of Persona 5's story. A seemingly average student, Kamishiro's life changes when an adorable owl called Lufel calls on them to fight back against the misery and hopelessness enveloping the world, and to turn the tables against the great despair that clouds the hearts of the public. Unable to refuse, Kamishiro learns to wield their inner persona and travels to the shadow world to help clear out the collective unconscious, one monster at a time. As with Kamishiro, there are more Tokyoites to meet and awaken as you progress, with each new character's arc nestled nicely into the overarching story. If you've played Persona 5, you'll quickly notice it's following that exact formula to a T. To fight off the aforementioned evil, you'll bounce between a handful of beautifully recreated Tokyo neighborhoods in the monster-filled metaverse. As a Phantom Thieves, you'll eke out misbehaving fiends and infiltrate their minds, while learning to master the series' trademark turn-based combat that centers around elemental weaknesses. And because Kamishiro is a teen, you'll also have to balance study, part-time work, and a social life too. With all these obvious derivations, the Phantom X struggles to conjure fresh ideas or immediate excitement in the shadow of a nearly decade-old masterpiece. But it at least manages to clone the Persona formula fairly well, and that'll be enough for some. No matter how familiar the core gameplay mechanics feel, a diverse cast of supporting characters provides much-needed levity and heart to the world. I've already fallen in love with Anderson, a gym rat with a heart of gold, Yaoling Li, an energetic foreign exchange student struggling with her studies, and plenty more. With energetic voice acting to back up their emotive, often humorous dialogue, it's clear there's been an effort to give the NPCs a sense of self. And similar to Persona 5, the more time you invest in them, the more you can unravel their heartfelt stories. Helping out the locals doesn't just reward you with some juicy plot points to pull out though, and it can lead to benefits in combat and day-to-day tasks too. For example, if you choose to keep helping Yaoling Li acclimate to her new life in Japan, you'll learn key recipes that you can use to buff your stats in battle. Alternatively, completing small side missions for other characters can instead reward you with upgrade currencies and special items for your home. These social interactions also expand the variety of day-to-day tasks available and provide bespoke options like working out at the gym alongside the carousel of regular activities, which include studying for school in local cafes, working at the combini for cash, or buying seeds that you can plant in your garden at home. How you spend your time will also feed into your social stats, which can impact how friendly you can get with certain NPCs, as well as what items are available to buy at the local stores. The healthy combination of social endeavors and solo tasks feed into each other nicely and creates an approachable system that enriches Kamishiro's initially quiet life while buffing their skills in the process. Unlike Persona 5, how you choose to spend your time here is governed by recoupable action points instead of a limited daily schedule. This means that you don't really have to fret over spending time with one NPC over another, because you can just wait for those points to add back up naturally and not miss out on either. I can appreciate that this system is much more forgiving than the rigid structure the Persona series is known for. However, without that all-important time pressure, the Phantom X fails to hit on how profound these decisions could and should feel. It makes sense in the context of the gacha setting, but this free-for-all approach makes it a little too easy to flip between NPCs without fully investing in their well-written backstory, and considering how they might help you if you choose them over some other character. It's not all errands and acquaintances though, and when you're finished playing above ground, you'll eventually move on to combat expeditions, which launch anytime from the Metaverse app located on Kamishiro's phone. Similar to the system used to govern social activities, your time in combat is partially ruled by an auto-refreshing currency, this time called stamina, and as you battle, you'll need to spend it to reap the rewards. The Phantom X bases its combat system directly on Persona 5, meaning it's turn-based with engaging reactive elements like chaining together one mores to be as efficient as possible. When you roll up on a baddie, you'll cycle through your party one member at a time, choosing between melee attacks, range attacks, and special Persona abilities. Similar to Pokemon, the enemies you'll face and the personas you deploy all have elemental strengths and weaknesses like fire or ice that can be exploited for extra damage. It's a tried and tested system with enough diversity in its moveset to keep battles fresh. And even if you are starting to tire of it, the imagination-stoking enemy designs pull a good amount of weight throughout. What makes Persona combat truly unique though is its series' bold interface design and legendary battle themes, which have been lovingly recreated here. I promise no matter how many times you've heard Persona 5's last surprise, it just doesn't get old. Sadly, no amount of vocal flair or introspective dialogue makes up for the sizable array of gacha systems and currencies you'll need to balance when playing. Within the first 20 hours or so, there aren't many barriers in the way of progression, letting you clear out baddies and jump between main and side stories with relative ease. Inevitably though, as you dig deeper in, level barriers paint a clearer picture of what progression actually feels like long term. Once you run out of side quests and main story content to fuel your climb, the next best way to earn the XP needed to unlock more is by winning random fights in the metaverse. But in order to do that, you'll need to spend stamina. If you're out of stamina, you have two choices. Purchase boosting supplements with real cash, or wait a painstaking amount of time for it to reload on its own. I'm not opposed to grinding out materials, especially when the combat is so moorish and the stories attached are so compelling. It's rather that this credit card-shaped conclusion was a totally expected but utterly disappointing roadblock to smash into. It was particularly painful to be reminded that I could simply pay via in-game shop pop-ups every few minutes too. Thankfully, not all the gacha systems here are so frustrating. While there are characters and personas you can unlock through the story, the quickest way to bolster your team is to engage in the Lucky Dip contracts menu. In line with most other gacha games on the market, you can earn the currencies you need to pull by grinding, or cut to the chase and pay to get an instant boost. In my case, it didn't take me too long to invest my hard-earned gacha currency and unlock my beloved Persona 5 fave and Takamaki without having to reach for my wallet. A ton of new characters are introduced via this system, and striking character designs just don't quit, which sweetens the pot somewhat. While I love all my gacha children equally, I was particularly enamored with the icy-haired Kotone, whose visual style ended somewhere between Joan of Arc and Swan Lake. Outside of the inclusion of the premium currencies, perhaps my biggest gripe with the Phantom X so far is that it feels more like an uncanny reflection of Persona 5 rather than a unique take on its established lore. Other spin-offs like Persona 5 Tactica or Persona 5 Strikers feel like strong additions to the series that come at or expand upon it from a different angle, whereas this is more of a well-executed imitation. It's not that I'm bored, and I've thoroughly enjoyed both its combat and getting to know the wide array of quirky characters. Plus, the 35 hours of missions I've played so far are well written, appropriately shocking, and do well to frame the villains as complex, fractured souls. But the do-over take on the story of the Phantom Thieves isn't a new enough experience to warrant the amount of time or possibly money I'd need to invest if I want to see it through to its lengthy end, especially when Persona 5 and its predecessors are readily available and far more curated and engaging. Persona 5 The Phantom X is a stylish, thoughtfully written reimagining of Persona 5 that struggles to feel sincere under the weight of its gacha systems. Early on, it's thoroughly enjoyable to bounce around the vibrant reimagining of Tokyo and help out the small pool of lovable NPCs. Eventually though, the patience testing roadblocks and onslaught of low-stake activities amount to little more than a beautiful but taxing slog. With a ton of excellent Persona games to play elsewhere that don't artificially hold you at an arm's length, it's fair to say that my relationship with Lufel and the gang will remain in the acquaintances category rather than best buds. For more, check out our reviews of Donkey Kong Bonanza or Mecha Break. And for everything else, stick with IGN.